Oh, how are you?
Hey, CJ, my friend, how you
Oh
doing?
my gosh, it's been so long. I'm so excited. I've been waiting all week. I'm so
Oh,
excited.
me
Thank you so
too.
much.
CJ, I was wondering. I mean, we've obviously been communicating, in chat. And I want to say hello to everyone in chat and all the mods. That it's so special to get you. I know you're so busy, but to have a little bit of time with you on the telephone. And I just want to say how impressed I am, and just I want to thank you for all of the fabulous research that you've put out. It's
Oh,
stupendous, and
wow.
I do recommend anyone who's just finding out about who CJ is that you do go back and refresh and take a look at the recent research. It's outstanding.
Wow. I don't know what to say. I appreciate that. I I definitely feel like I don't do uh I feel like I could be doing a lot better, that's for sure. Wow, kind words. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Uh I'm
Uh,
caught off guard.
that show you did about a week and a half ago on Touch DNA, I think is so important, and I,
Yeah.
and I, I really recommend if anyone is just really finding out who CJ is to maybe start with that show because it just talks about just the problems of this Idaho case, CJ. And when we spoke last, I looked at my notes, and it was about the time that the preliminary hearing was supposed to have occurred, and it was canceled.
Mhm.
And we were discussing just so many problems associated with this case, and it's it's mind-boggling that more information regarding why they arrested this person, as they did
Mhm.
December 30th, and why he is the sole and the correct person who took the lives of those four innocent, beautiful souls. And we still don't have it, CJ. What do you think?
Mm. After what took place yesterday, I have a feeling that it's going to get drug out like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate because the longer it goes, the more people don't talk about it, kind of thing. And as much as Ann Taylor's the shit. Like, Ann Taylor's the shit. But man, uh, as much as the prosecution doesn't want to offer or produce, which they should, of certain things, uh, and the process that the defense is having to go through just to get the information that they should have in the first place, they're sneaky as hell as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they also know what they're doing. They may not have, I don't feel they have the evidence that they claim that they do or as strong as it is, but man, they sure know how to play the game. That's for sure. Because when, after what took place yesterday and how the judge responded, that right there, if he's not willing to, I mean, and it was pretty quick too, if he's not willing to kind of like be a maverick, because it is a different time period, things are different now. uh you, in order to evolve, you have to make changes. And so I think with it being stuck back there, him kind of going off of the last 100 years, which I totally understand where he's coming from too. It's law, you know. He's not trying to be a maverick. I get that too. But it's like they know what they're doing. They know that Ann Taylor is going to have to do this and this and this and this, and that just buys them more
Right.
time as well. They don't care.
And yeah, I know. I think you've hit it. You've hit it on the head that they are extremely sneaky, And I feel the judge should have compelled them to produce this IgG evidence back in June
Yeah.
when
Mm-hmm.
they asked for it, and not just or I guess it was 2 days ago was when the order was entered, CJ. But the lack of transparency that's been this case since October of 2022
Mm-hmm.
just seems to continue. And I think that you've hit it on the head when you said they're going to make her work. And in the meantime, you have this 28-year-old guy who continues to remain shackled in the basement of the Lotsa County Courthouse. I don't think he should have ever been arrested. And I feel more strongly about that when we learned yesterday the details that the grand jurors, or 6 of them at least, wanted to see more evidence. And what have we been hearing about since the PCA came out? Is that, oh, well, this is just the beginning of this mountain of evidence, as if Payne would not have put his strongest evidence in the probable cause affidavit and would have just relied on his weakest. Oh, there's this man. We only know about 10% of what's out there. Well, if Thompson or whoever presented their case to the grand jury with defense and no attorneys for any witnesses that they called, if they called anyone present, if they're asking for more details and more evidence, what does that tell us, CJ?
They don't have enough.
That what he presented to grand jury was probably what's in the PCA and probably not a lot much more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. Exactly. And it's like what we were saying last night when we were talking about, the grand jury and what the evidence was that they were wanting. And to me, it has to be the picture of the car. Because with the grand jury, you're going to bring the PCA because it's just about probable cause. That's all you need. So here, I already did my homework. Here's my piece of paper. Right? So you're going to go through each thing on the PCA. Well, here's DM's statement, written piece of paper, signed, dated. Okay, check mark. Here's the cell phone, the cell phone data. Here's a bunch of numbers and a bunch of words. They're going to check mark. Okay, now here's the surveillance. We got him going from here to here to here to here to here to here to here at this time and this time and this time. And then they hand them the stock photo. That's where they're like, okay, can we have some more evidence? If you have him here, well, for sure, you have to have a grainy photo. Give us the photo, the grainy photos of this spot and this spot and this spot and this spot. This is what the car looks like. It's a stock photo. Just don't pay attention to the sunroof on the top. It's
not
like
not that the BK doesn't happen to have a sunroof.
It looks like this. It looks like this.
It looks like this. The kidnapped child that we're going to put out when we do the Amber Alert looks like this blonde-haired 8-year-old child, but we're going to hide the picture of the actual kid.
Yeah, we know where they drove too. We're just not going to release the picture or the plate. No.
Right. I mean, CJ, when in the history of law enforcement have they never? This is one of the things that got this guy arrested. That they're saying suspect vehicle 1 is BK's 2015 Elantra. Now they have, according to Brett Payne, if he's to be believed, they have evidence of this car making like it's a Miss America pageant contestant in front of 1122. Well, they're going back and forth.
Right.
We're doing the 3-point turn, so you can see everything, including the Pennsylvania license plate. That would be compelling evidence at the corner of King and Queen. And then we're going to go back around the apartments at Linda Lane. We're going to come back again. And then we have it speeding out of the neighborhood. And then we have it at the Albertsons in the daytime. And then we have it up in all areas of Pullman and, in Idaho, and during the morning hours when it should be visible. But we're not going to show you that. We're going to show you a stock image of a car that's got a sunroof and tell you, trust us.
It's that Christmas stocking. That's what it is.
Your Christmas stocking,
Trust
right?
me,
I'm
it's
telling you,
full. It's full.
maybe
Trust
coal.
us.
There's coal in that stocking in front of Brett Payne's, fireplace this Christmas season. It looks like it's filled with toys, doesn't it? But it's filled
Hmm.
with coal. There's nothing in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
DJ, why have they hidden the car? What is? No one can give a competent answer why they did not release a photo of the car. No one. There is no answer.
Probably because they got their own. There's plenty of white
They got
cars.
their own car on video. Is
I
that
mean,
the
listen.
car
If
Rosenthal was driving?
listen,
Is that what you're
listen.
trying to?
There's even a photo. There's even a photo of a white car driving by a gas station that don't have rims and tires on it. All right. there's all right.
Right.
There's got to be the photo of this car all over the place, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of the evidence is their own damn uh, unmarked car that was driving around that evening or morning, if whatever you want to call it. It's a
Yeah.
it says
Yeah.
white or light colored. If you look at the verbiage, and it also says plural too. But if you look at the verbiage,
Right.
you see white or light colored when it came to the press statement. Now,
Right.
there's been so many people, and they've done a great job putting 20 different models of cars on Linda Lane cars and all this other stuff. They've done a wonderful job imposing different models of vehicles. I mean, it could be a Mercedes, a BMW, just a whole bunch of different vehicles. You could literally transpose. So you can literally do that when you make it as broad as white or light colored, and you're talking about grainy footage. Yeah, you can definitely say it was this and that. The footage I'm more concerned about is the footage that's inside Pullman, inside Moscow, where the dude that went to commit this crime wasn't trying to be sneaky. He was just going all over the place, all up and down streets in both towns that would have surveillance all over, well lit. You're talking intersections of street corners that are very well lit. You're talking highways, which are very well lit. Uh, just the intersections alone, when you have cameras coming at you from all different angles. If motherfuckers can give me $150 toll bill from PA and have my damn license plate zoomed in like crazy, I'm sorry. They're gonna have a license plate picture. It's just got to.
They
So
should.
it's they collected all of that surveillance from the whole area. Ooh, that's a light colored car. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean it. They don't know. I don't think they even know. I think they just threw a bunch of shit together that sounded good, that they knew that they could apprehend somebody
Right.
before the new semester started. And it's just, I don't know. I never even thought that this was even, when people would mention DoorDash driver, I was just, I don't know. It didn't make, but man, I don't know. It just, the more that we go in and go in and go in, I'm just wondering if the dude was DoorDashing or was one of those provider ride people for the students. Maybe because he was somebody that was always up late hours of the night. Maybe that's one of the things that he did to help with it was, you know what, instead of me sitting at home vacuuming and doing dishes real loudly at 2 in the morning, maybe he was doing the provider ride thing, trying to, uh
Like right, like a lot of Americans do.
right.
It's especially since the pandemic. It's been. I know people who have done DoorDash, who've done Instacart, who have done ride shares, and they
Mm-hmm.
put some bucks in their pocket. And I'm sure he wasn't making a whole heck of a lot of money as a PhD candidate, whatever his stipend is. And he's got expenses. Like any other person. I think that's a great theory. He might have been and he's caught up, or maybe he was doing something that was a little bit more, on the shady side. Who knows? But
Maybe.
I think I think the alibi that he was way far away from 1122 when the crimes occurred is a heck of a better alibi than I was inside the house
Mm-hmm.
before, during, and after for 8 hours. And
Yeah.
people are like, well, where's his? He gave an alibi. What
Mm-hmm.
do you want? He lives alone.
Yeah. I mean, and if he's willing to offer that, then if he's willing to say that, well, then I would imagine he's got to have some kind of something to say, yeah, this is where I was at. What if it is dropping somebody off? What if it is, you know what I mean? Like, just because he said his alibi is out driving around, just like the prosecution isn't giving all the cards, he's not going to give all his cards either. He's not going to sit there and tell you, come out and say, yeah, I mean, I was here and here and here and here and here. So then what? The prosecution can pick it apart when it comes to trial?
Exactly, and I understand. That this. Okay, if you're going to raise, I was somewhere else defense. You have to tell the prosecution where, but the extent that we now have to change our entire judicial and justice system to one where we got to prove ourselves innocent. We got to prove
Right.
ourselves that we did not commit a crime is a dangerous precedent, one I'm really concerned about in this case. I mean, just from the practical, getting aside that this isn't Iran or Iraq or China, or even the United Kingdom when we first declared our independence in 1776, where they could pull you, throw you in, the Tower of London, and just keep you there throw you in the Thames without any due process. The fact that how difficult I've been accused of doing things I didn't do in the past. All right. Imagine if you're at work and you're accused of doing something, or you're accused of doing, for a significant other. It is impossible, CJ, to prove a negative.
Yeah.
Just that alone, right? It's impossible.
Especially when it's already back here, yeah.
Right.
For
right. And everything about this guy seems to, and when people realize he didn't fight extradition. He could quite literally still be in Monroe County today, because when they fight extradition one state to the other, we've seen how long it takes to get a hearing. It sometimes takes 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
He immediately waived his rights and went back. A person who's guilty, I would suggest, wouldn't have made it that easy. Would have then said, hey, show us what you got, and then we have the judge out in Pennsylvania looking at this sketch and very, very, questionable evidence against him, and then made the decision if he's got to go across the country and if there was enough evidence there, even at, the probable cause standard. CJ, he went right back.
Even the Washington search warrant, like when you're reading the search warrant for the Washington, the apartment, they're like, yo, a beautiful search warrant that was written too. I just have to say it. Like, shout out WSU, or Washington State Police or whatever. They did a great job with that, because they were like, yo, we're doing the search because this is what they're giving us. And if what they're giving us doesn't hold up in court, then just understand why we did our search, and don't hold it against us, because we were basically going off of what we were given to us on why we had to do the search. I thought it was beautiful. I was like, they even understand it. You know what I mean?
Right. And CJ, didn't you anticipate that they were going to come out with boxes of evidence? What did they come out with? This dog here. If that was Murphy's dog here, or if there was DNA, if that blood stain on that, whatever, pillowcase or whatever, belonged to one of the four souls, don't you think that would have been presented to the grand jury?
Yeah. They wouldn't need more evidence.
What about
they
his
wouldn't
office?
need it.
What about his office? And nothing in his office at WSU, nothing in his apartment in Pullman, right? And I agree with you. Did you know one of the affidavits signed in support of the was by Sergeant Blacker? Sergeant Blacker is who arrived with Payne 4 p.m. in the afternoon on the day in question, and he doesn't once mention in there, hey, I saw the sheep laying in the bed. Payne says, talks about it. Don't you think, oh man, you could just see it right from the doorway. He doesn't say that. So that's another question.
Right.
I'm curious, not that I want to see any crime scene photos. The last thing I want to see, but I want to see whether it was, I believe it was Officer Smith who would have gone up to that, one of the first three. I want to see his body, know what his body cam showed. If that sheet was on the bed at 12 o'clock or whenever he did his first walkthrough. What do you think, CJ?
What do I think is, why not have the body? I would want the body cam on no matter what, no matter who,
Yep.
to protect myself, especially walking into an investigation. I don't want to be blamed for doing something shady as fuck. So damn straight, I'm going to have that fucking camera on and whatever. So that's the weirdest thing. Like, where's all these body cams?
Right.
I don't know. I don't think they knew. I think what happened is this crime took place. They were thrown back off their feet, which is understandable. They're not from Chicago. And I think they tried to handle everything on their own without getting the proper, like this manhunt that we're talking about.
Geez.
As soon as that took place,
Yeah.
boom, FBI, please take over. Like right away.
Yeah.
Because you can't, you know what I mean? And I think that's what didn't take place here is it was like, we can do this. And then from right there, it just domino effect. This fumbaloo, that fumbaloo. Oh shit, we got to make something sound good. One of the reasons why we're going into the body cam stuff is because it's so sneaky. It's so sneaky, and I think that's just what it all is. I think it's all sneaky. I don't know how else to put it.
I think that's a good word, sneaky, and I think I'm gonna quote you when I'm having discussions that it is this. Everything just seems sneaky. It doesn't make sense. And as my grandmother told me, when things don't make sense, it's usually because someone's lying. That it doesn't make sense. Where's the body cam? There's no body cam footage in Pennsylvania. They didn't have all of those officers that went into that home at whatever 1:30 or 2 in the morning, day before Christmas Eve, and pulled him out of that house. They didn't have body cams on. Huh?
No, right. And you're doing a SWAT.
Here,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you want to protect yourself. That's what body cam footage is. And so, your point that everything just seems. What did Mr. I listened to one of you, and I'm so thankful that you are going back. And I don't know if anyone else is doing this, but you're going back to the early stuff. And for the first time, I was listening in the other night, and I heard Steve, Kaylee's father, say, how could they, something to the effect of, how could they know day one on the, that there was no threat to the public when they issued that? They were afraid of a mass exodus.
Yeah.
That's what you and I were saying all along. We talked about when we spoke last, that their concern on the day of the crimes was to prevent a mass exodus. Why? Well, hey, if everyone's leaving Moscow, all of a sudden now all this money's going with it. That's that is their primary economic base for taxes that pays for the police to patrol the campus. So that seems to fit in also with my question, CJ. How could they have come out? How could, the captain and the chief of police come out and say, we do not believe the following people are involved? 2 days after, a week after, this is even before DNA results are back. And they went down the litany of all the locals that the Chicago Police Department would have looked at and possibly considered a person of interest because of their access to, the victims. And now we have Xana's mom who's coming out with that Facebook post naming a particular person at the Sigma Chi that it's been rumored that Ethan and Xana had a little bit of a disagreement with shortly before, the crimes. Why is she saying that if she believes that the sole and the correct perpetrator is in the basement of the Latah County Jail right now? Why?
I don't know. She's been kind of in and out though. At the same time, I have to, I have to look at it from that angle too. I agree with what you're saying as well, but I also have to be like, you hear a lot of rumors too, you know, like especially if you're in you're you know in jail in a local area, you're gonna hear a lot of rumors about different things like this, things like that. I I mean, I appreciate what she has to say. I don't know if she knows as much. And because she was also claiming from, as far as I know from other people, something about Zaina being at the freaking grub truck. And so there's just, I don't know. You hear a lot of different things, and being in and out during this process and during this time over the last almost a year. Uh,
Mm.
with what Steve G said, you know, I agree with what she's saying because I feel like there's more people involved. That's why I'm doing the different things that I've done with the grub truck or the body cam, things like
Which,
that, for
yeah, which
sure.
is
For
good,
sure.
great research, and I still, the PCA was so devoid of so many important details. Like, how do you, how do you reconcile that 8? I believe it's more. I believe the crimes happened by 3 a.m. I really do. I think that the first time frame that MPD put out, we believe the crimes happened between 3 and 4. This would have been shortly after the bevy of calls were made by Maddie and Kaylee's phones. I believe that it was earlier, but even if they're correct and they're saying that it happened between 4 and 4:30, they give no details as to explaining why 911 wasn't called until almost 12 noon with 2 other people presumably in the same house. Nor do they give the time that the friends were summoned. Those to me, CJ, are
They
critically
don't even know
important
how
because if
many.
the friends, we
They
don't
don't
know
even
how
know how
we don't
many.
know which scene.
They let all
We
them
don't know
students go.
what did they do in the crime scene. I mean, what time? If they were called at 11:40, okay, that's one thing. If they were called at 8:30, that's another story, which we've heard. Payne doesn't put that detail in the PCA. Who is being protected? How is the investigation heard? If Brett Payne says that at X hour a call or a text went out to friends summoned to the property, that's looking like they're protecting someone or someone's. And now we're hearing the rumor that the reason why the 911 call, we talked about this 4 months ago, why wasn't the 911 call ever released, a redacted portion of it, or even a transcript? There's some theories going around that there was a call that went to NPD earlier and it wasn't responded to,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Why no 911 call, CJ?
Yeah.
We talked. I don't know if you remember, but when we spoke, there was a horrendous crime that had happened in Ohio, where a man, I don't know if you remember it, CJ, but a
Yeah. The three
man, a
boys.
stepfather, the 3 boys,
Yeah. Yep.
they immediately released. Remember, they're the cop in the car who's driving who's trying to get to the crime scene. They're showing the video, the audio of him speaking to 9. When he gets there,
Yeah.
thankfully they blacked out the little bodies on the ground, and you
Right.
see the
Right.
perpetrator sitting on the steps with the rifle behind him. Okay, the
Smoking a
public is
cigarette.
now. What does that tell us? That they got the correct guy. A couple months ago, when this woman in Alabama faked her kidnapping, they released the 911 call almost immediately before she was arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Why hasn't the 911 call, even on the day of BK's arrest, why not release it then? Why not release a photo of suspect vehicle 1? And all of this talk, CJ, oh, this is a Moscow thing. This is people from other parts of the country. Like, I live in Florida. People like I should not be concerned. I'm going to tell you something. We should be concerned because the Pacific Northwest screwed up Bundy, didn't they? Royally. They allowed him to escape, and he came to Florida, and he killed people here, including a 12-year-old. So we should all be concerned that the and the only
Mm-hmm.
person has not been arrested. On top of this, if you very eloquently said that, hey, what if this was my brother, my son, my coworker? Wouldn't we want to know and feel assured that all of his liberties have been taken for the past year, that they have the soul and the correct person?
It's so important. That's why I'm surprised nobody's talking about this Mark Carver case. You know what I mean? Seriously. Like nobody else. I do not understand it. I've put post out. I've put the damn video out. I it's like why is nobody else talking about this Mark Carver case, because this Mark Carver could have been real-time BK. Like the fact
Right.
that the way that all this stuff's going down, it's like everybody, if you just take just a little bit of time to see and talk about this case, oh my gosh, it's like to a T. And when it comes to what's going on, all of this stuff has happened before. So why are we going to allow and let history to repeat itself when we have these other things that have already been documented to show, especially with how important of a time it is right now, because there's so much influence going around in this world. One direction here and one direction there, and you could easily be pulled from this direction to this direction so much quicker than you could before. And that's why it's so important not only to discuss these other things that can show you, look, people, this is how it can, this could be, and then to talk about it and to keep talking about it is so important. And it's so
Yeah.
important for us to be responsible too, because people think that you're on YouTube or whatever, you know what? Oh, I'm just doing a show. It is what it is. No, your words. People come into your fucking show and they're like, okay, this has got to be true. You
Right.
know, it's
Right.
so important, and I just don't understand why people aren't more serious about this. Because what if it was their family member? What if it was them? You wouldn't be doing this.
Exactly. Exactly. You'd be at, and going back to, and one of the, I have like a top five plus list about this case, and at the top of the list has to be that the stock image of the car instead of publishing an actual photo of the car. What about safety concerns, CJ, for the local community?
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
learned in PCA, right, that the GM gave a description, supposedly, of the perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they bring in an artist to do an artist rendition,
Right.
publish a photo of the car, and tell the 17 and 18 and 19-year-old kids that are away from their families for the first time in Moscow and 9 miles away in Pullman,
Yeah.
do not approach. If you see this person, there was enough detail that she provided. And I said, oh well, this is the man. No, I mean she 5'10". It's a white person, so we know we can rule out African Americans. We can 5'10", who has an athletic but not a muscular build, bushy eyebrows, and then those artists can get a lot of detail out. They didn't seem to be too concerned, in
Mm.
my humble estimation, where
No.
that would have been released right away. So I don't understand this case.
And
And
the
and you
family's
said,
asking to put out a reward too. The family was asking, can we put out a reward? No,
yeah,
we don't want to
yeah,
scare the
and I
community. What the?
we don't want to scare the community. You got to warn the community. I mean, a lot of people thought, is this an SK? Is this another Bundy? Is this another
Right.
Rawlings?
They didn't even know if
Still
their
on the
best
loose,
friend was the person. You know? Oh.
right? No, I know, and
The
it just,
mothers
and
that couldn't go get
I
formula for their babies because they were single and they were too scared to walk to the freaking corner store by themselves. You know, shit like that. It's like, dude, come on, Ellie. Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
horrible. It's horrible. And maybe that should be one of my drawings sometime. The fucking the public information that they should have put out. A sketch photo of the frickin' perpetrator and a sketch photo of a frickin' vehicle. Something that they should have put out in the very beginning, because it's true what you say. They should have. They should have had a profile, right? If she really did give that statement, why did you
If
not have a press conference of a picture of a person with a baklava and bushy fucking eyebrows and say, this is the suspect?
Exactly. Exactly. So it just brings up the susometer, in this case, that they did not do that. There's Moscow is a college town. There are a lot of young people that it should have been more. I mean, like you say, the mother who was afraid to go to the store to get formula for her baby, the working parents, everyone, they had a duty and an obligation if,
Because it's not just college
quote
kids,
unquote, if
it's
she
people of
did.
all ages, you know.
Sure, sure.
That's
Everyone who was
community.
living there, they didn't. So that makes me wonder: did DM actually give that, that, or did she do it later?
I think
And
she
this
did.
later, So why didn't they immediately say? Why didn't November 14th? Here's an artist rendition of the suspect. Here's the car. Stay away. Don't approach. Contact us. They never did.
I think
And even
she
CJ,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry,
No.
CJ, even if you were to go up and look at historical data on the Moscow PD website, those press releases,
Yeah.
they kept asking for a 2011 to
Yeah.
a 2013 Elantra up to the day before BK's
Yeah.
arrest. And moreover, Chief Fry, his interviews that are on the Moscow PD public information site, mid-December, is still asking for occupants, like you keep saying, occupants, plural, of the 1113 Elantra, which is a Chief Fry. If you already had a profile and we're looking at, and he's already written up the affidavit of probable cause on the 29th of December, why are you still asking the public for the 2011-13
Mhm.
Elantra? What do you think, CJ?
I don't think they got DM's statement until they switched to looking for bushy eyebrows and looking for BK. I think that's when they got their statement that was put in the PCA. I don't think it was a statement that was taken up until then, because if it was, don't you don't you think like something else would have been out there? you know, I don't know. Like, I just feel like the whole. That's why I've been saying this whole time, and I've been asking people to ask themselves, who says that's the first statement she made? Who says that somebody didn't say, did they have thin eyebrows? No. Did they have crooked eyebrows? No. How about bushy? Yeah, that sounds good. Oh, okay, bushy. Okay.
Yeah, we'll take that. We'll take that. And, going back to what did DM say? What did she see? What did she say? Frozen shock phase. That's a quote in the PCA. So that means Brett Payne is saying that's a direct quote from a
Mm-hmm.
19-year-old that
Mm-hmm.
said that. Ann Taylor, of course, never had the opportunity to cross-examine, either of the two roommates,
Yeah, and why
because what
wasn't
happened
BF's in there, you know? Why do you think BF's
right,
wasn't in the PCA? Because to me, if you're trying to, you want things to stay, and if it is a statement, that's pretty damn solid. Where your PCA wouldn't be in jeopardy, because when you have a stock photo and you have cell phone pings, I mean, come on, it says utilizing the tower that the home did. Okay, I'm sure it
unbelievable.
utilized the tower all the time, just like when it went to Albertsons, no? I'm sure it utilized the same tower, right? I mean,
Exactly, the reason and why hasn't the defense had an opportunity to speak with in court, cross-examine both of them, is because of what happened in May. Do you recall it was in January that Thompson agreed to the week-long preliminary hearing that was supposed to happen the end of June? It was
yeah.
May that we got all of this, we got this information that the defense wanted to speak to BF, and they were trying to domesticate the scheme back from where she was, and then, oh, no, we'll go and speak with her. It wasn't until then that Thompson ran to the grand jury and he got his indictment. All through January, he was cool. February, March, April, beginning of May. It wasn't until May when they started to say that we want to bring her back. If we would have had that preliminary hearing, who knows if it would have been behind closed doors or not, but presumably Ann Taylor would have gotten up there and cross-examined Brett Payne, cross-examined everybody in this case.
The three officers she wanted the training records on. Nobody talks about that anymore,
Right. Who's the Brady Giglio? Who is it? Who is it? We still don't know.
I bet it's one of them.
What you said at the beginning, right, where you said as time goes on, people are going to forget. Of course, we've had this tragedy up in Maine that people's focus is on. The stuff that's going on overseas in between Israel and Hamas, and people are not talking about them. And they're dependent upon, as time goes on, evidence gets stale, the witnesses' minds become more and more blurry, that it is not in BK's favor to have this thing drag out.
Mm-mm.
And that's a big concern of mine. If I'm going to come flat out and say that I believe he is guilty of nothing at this point, because if he were, we would have had some smoking gun evidence in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have it. Things have changed. Even with gag orders and even with MPD's refusal to be transparent at all, things get out. I think we would have seen some smoking gun evidence, like his car in front of that house.
Exactly. That's what I was waiting for. That's exactly not that I was gonna drastically change one way or the other, because it all seems shady as hell from the beginning anyway. But the car is what really made me really kind of stand a little stronger on the innocent until proven guilty, period. Because it's okay, I really need to go at it like this, period. Because with nothing in the car, with my profession that I was in, I'm not I'm not a genealogy expert or anything like that, but I'll tell you something. I made very expensive cars look really motherfucking good for people that, it was a profession. I'll put it that way. It was a fucking profession. And with the way that I had to get in to all sorts of different vehicles, all sorts of different spaces, to all sorts of different crevices, there is no way, with what I had to clean and how I had to do it in the profession, there is no way you're going to be able to clean every freaking part of DNA of a victim out of your vehicle. There's not. I was damn good, and I couldn't even did it. And I'm just being honest. So if I'm saying that, then I don't see how somebody could have cleaned out all of the DNA. I just don't see it happening. And so when nothing came in the vehicle, to me that was okay, I don't know. I don't know anymore about this.
100%. We were all expecting there to be some DNA from that car. And I don't have your experience, but I did watch a few videos of what the FBI does when they get a hold of cars that are in crime and looking for DNA. They literally take the car apart and they go down into the floorboard and they inject some type of liquid to try to extract the DNA. So either this guy is the stupidest person in the world driving his own vehicle to the site of a mass murder, or he is the most brilliant person in the world who was able to go in, unalive 4 people in the horrendous manner that he did. And going back to what the coroner said, this was a very, very ELOODY scene.
Yeah.
Not drop any of his DNA in the property. Not take
exactly.
any. There's no droplets on that white cement that we see. There's no droplets out there. Walk up to the car, not drop anything in the car, not take anything into the apartment, not bring anything with him out.
Like Vinny brought up OJ. It wasn't like OJ. There wasn't DNA at the scene. There wasn't DNA in the vehicle. There wasn't, no, you're right. And how? How did he even get apprehended the way that he did when... How do they know how the sheath got there? Oh, that means that he
That's
did
right.
it. Oh, that means that he did
That's
it.
right.
Who's to say that the sheath wasn't a gift from somebody that was given to somebody, and somebody, oh my gosh, I hear somebody coming in. Let me go get something somebody gave me a long time ago
Exactly.
to defend myself, and next
Exactly.
thing you know, it winds up down here because I tried to put up a,
Exactly. That's one thing I thought. Who's to say it's not one of the people in the house that sheath belonged to? No one can say. The sheath did not.
who's
Sheath
to
doesn't
say
alive
BK
for
didn't
people
sell it to
also.
the person that gave it to her as a gift? Because remember, it's
And everything.
underneath, right? That's a protected area.
Exactly.
No matter who touches it, underneath is a protected area. So if it's underneath, then
Exactly.
who says he didn't sell it to somebody else? He had 4 of them, everybody, remember? Right? Supposedly. Who says he didn't sell one of them to somebody that gave it to one of the girls because they were feeling danger?
Right. No, 150%, and everything that we know. And I would like to just interject a little bit of common sense here. CJ, everything that we know about this guy, he seems like he's a meticulous, clean freak. We have never seen BK in any photograph where he's unkempt, where his hair is not cut short, where his clothes are not clean, where he's getting up in the middle of the night to run the dishwasher, to run the vacuum. If my husband ever did that, I think I would faint. If
Mm,
he ever did something like that, I mean, he just seems to me like a clean freak, he's going to go up and unalive 4 people up close and personal, and what that means, and then not take any because he's got a Dickies coverall on, as if a Dickies coverall is kryptonite to DNA.
right,
DNA is not
right,
going to attach itself to the
right.
Dickies coverall. It's going to
I
protect his
mean,
DNA from falling.
then why would Dexter need to put on vinyl?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Wouldn't Dexter be putting on a Dickie suit then, yo? No.
Exactly.
There's a
Hey,
reason Dexter put on vinyl. Like, come on.
to the extremes to where people have to go to make this what I believe is an outcome. And the details that we got yesterday when the judge's 32-page order hit the docket, I believe is more telling, because now we've learned for the first time that the FBI called in a tip to Moscow PD and said, look at Brian Kohberger. That is in the first 2 pages of the order. So now we have, at least that's one thing good that came out of yesterday's hearing, because the judge could have denied that motion. I could have said, nah, you don't need it, blah, 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 whatever.
Mhm.
But he did say this is a case of first impression. So now we have, which I wanted to pick your brain on. I don't know if you've had a chance to read the order yet, but
No,
you
not yet.
know that they've been hiding this IgG,
Mhm.
the genealogic tree, and they should have turned it over in June, and all of the jumps and the bells and the whistles and everything that the defense had to do. So now there's an in-camera inspection that's coming up. Moscow PD has got to turn over this evidence to the judge so the judge can look at. Why does the DOJ have a policy that the FBI is not to keep their work? Why? Why shouldn't everything be documented from A to Z?
Right.
This is what we did, right? This is
Right.
what we did. Here's how we built the tree. Here's the tree. Okay, if we got to do a protective order to protect any other person from BK's family, extended family, the judge has the ability to do that. Why are
Well,
they throwing out their work, CJ?
because they're part of a generation where they were allowed to start using calculators on tests.
Exactly. That's my big. I know a few people have been saying, like in algebra, you gotta show your work to get full
It's the
credit. We
truth.
remember that from school, right? You don't just give the teacher the answer to a complicated algebraic question without them turning around and saying, "Oh, no, 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 you're going to have to finish here
Yeah.
and show me how you." And why? I asked an algebra teacher that not long ago. They said, because this way we know they haven't cheated when the person sitting next to them just filled in whatever the answer was. I got to see the work. Why are they hiding your work? And I think it may have something to do with the Fourth Amendment issue here. We got a judge said this is a case of first impression, meaning, I know as your guest last night so eloquently put it, you talk about you looking at precedent, if there's an Idaho appellate court or with this, nobody has said anything about this. So FBI, I mean, if they're going to go and use these, go into 23andMe or whatever and try to figure out whose DNA this could possibly be, you're going to have to show every step of what you did to arrive at that figure, just like that 14-year-old has to show their professor, their teacher, here's how I arrived at this mathematical conclusion. Because it really is all math when we think about it in the end. The discovery, CJ, that they now have to turn over for in-camera inspection finally.
Yeah. When it comes, I think this is what took place. And I'm not really concerned. I mean, yes, with the way that you get the profile, you have to use your homework in order to get to your profile. We've heard that in the DNA stuff when we were digging into it. You have to use all of that homework, and there's a lot of it. Now, this is what I think took place. I think when they were requesting the assistance from the agency, I think the agency took, they were privy to see the investigation, what Moscow wanted to allow, because it's at Moscow's discretion with the way that they requested the assistance instead of it being taken over. If you look into the the rules of how it goes down, basically they're only allowed to help with what Moscow wants them allowed to help with to a certain point. And so I think what took place is they saw the investigation and they were just like, yo, we'll give you a tip. We'll give you a tip, but we don't want to touch that. Because I think they already knew from the beginning, looking at it from behind, was like, whoa, this is not, something don't seem right. And why would you want to be a part of it? Right. But at the same time, you were reached out for help. So you want to help. So you're going to be like, hey, here's a tip. Do your homework. Here's a nugget. Here's a little nugget. Do your homework. And I think with what happened is they were so gung-ho on this Oregon car being the car. They were so excited. They set up a team. They spent all this time going out there. They did all this investigating, and then they found out or figured out it had nothing to do with it. So then they were like, shit. Then all of a sudden,
now what?
This whole tip, I think what they did is they took the tip and didn't do the homework. They just took it and said, fuck it. This is our next one, everybody. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Right? Just like the Oregon car. When the Oregon car went to nothing, they got this. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go. Boom. Oh, white car, white car, white car, white car. All right, guys, let's go. We got him. Let's go. Boom, right in time before the buzzer ran out for enrollment.
Yes, exactly.
Swish, right?
Exactly.
Swish.
And CJ, you made a very good, I think, a really important point. Some people say, oh, well, the FBI was involved, arm in arm. No, they were not. Like you said, Moscow had jurisdiction over this crime. Chief Fry came out from the beginning and said, we are the lead agency. Mm-hmm. So the FBI gets what Moscow decides they're going to see. That's it.
Yep, that's it.
And
even if they notice something, they can't be like, hey, you should do. You can't. Right. Even if they said, hey, we think there's more than one guy, it doesn't matter because it's up to Moscow PD because they have jurisdiction.
100%.
They can keep them at bay.
Yeah, this wasn't an FBI investigation. This was a Moscow PD investigation. James Fry made that very clear that they were the lead. There was an interview that I saw from him, and he said, "Oh, we have something like 130, years of experience. We're doing what? Responding to noise complaints. Stopping kids that are running across band fields that you think are inebriated. You never. I mean, they hadn't they hadn't touched a homicide investigation since, what was it, 2014, 15? They
Yeah.
certainly didn't have something of this magnitude.
Yeah, it was like 6 years it was a while. It was multiple years. Yeah. And then when they
They weren't
interviewed the
talking
coroner, she's like,
TV
"Oh
like you
yeah,
said.
I'm used to. Yeah,
Yeah, and you
I'm
know
experienced."
what I was reminded of when you were talking about the Oregon car. How could I forget about that? That they thought they got the launch and they went up there at about that same time. We then have Steve Galvez, who's hired his private attorney, and they go down to, remember, they went down to Moscow PD and they had a private meeting with, now they have the attorney who's there, who's able to guide Steve, and Steve hit the roof when he
Mm,
found that a 2-year rookie was leading this case. There was all sorts of press. It came out, I think, around the 17th, the 18th of October, that Brett Payne only had 2 years of experience, as a peace officer, and
oh no,
all of it was with Moscow. So he's of all the people, you decide this is who is going to lead this, and then 8 or 9 or 10 days later, they announced they announced the arrest.
mm-hmm.
So it just all sort of happened so quick, and like you said, right before students are supposed to be coming back. Hey, the boogeyman's been caught, students. You can come back. You can come
Mm-hmm.
back. Very, very suspect.
Yeah. I mean, and Steve was saying that a few weeks after everything was going down when he was really getting into his sleuthing the family, and we saw that in the interview from December 5th of last year when he was saying they didn't want it to become a ghost town, because then what happens? Then when you look at the background, we looked into the background of the university in the beginning of this year, and when you see the type of money that is just circulated, I mean, with not only with the state, with the government, the state,
Yeah,
uh, the money that is just circulated, and it all has to do with the students' work. And if you
right.
don't have students, then you can't perform the work that makes the money circulate, because it is school, but really the programs and the types of you know different experiments and programs that they're doing, they need the students to create and do and perform the programs in the schooling in order for the stuff to get done, for them to get the money that gets circulated. And so it all is just tied into the enrollment, not only the school, but then all of the local businesses, because then if your
Yeah,
school becomes a ghost school, then you already drop half your population for
right.
your town. So
And
that
who?
hit's not going to affect all your small businesses, of course.
I don't think so. All the rents
Boom.
from all of that off campus, the rents, for the
Mm-hmm.
dorms, the books, the
Property
meals,
management.
the gas, all of that goes away. That was that one movie, Follow the Money. It will usually give you the answer in
Always,
secret, May,
especially nowadays.
and yeah, and I don't think that they looked at anyone seriously who was local, who had a tie to that university, whether it
Mm-hmm.
was a student, a landlord, a neighbor. They didn't look at anyone local, and my concern is they were concerned about their precious university.
Mm-hmm. How do
So
you let these
therefore, that's
students leave? You know, how
yeah,
does Scott Green come out with a statement right when it takes place and tells the students, please go be with your families on this holiday? Like,
yeah, don't stick around because your interviews are critical right now before you have a chance to leave home and discuss things
yeah,
with people and then come
we'll
back and then give an interview.
we'll extend Thanksgiving holiday for the university, everybody. We understand it's a holiday, but there's something horrific that happened in this community. Please give us patience. Can everybody stick around for another week? We'll make sure to change the schooling and any of the businesses around here. We will change the Thanksgiving date so that you guys are allowed to have the same kind. You know what? Like, we'll try our best, because think about it. It happened on the 13th. Thanksgiving's on the 27th, 25th, 25th.
Right,
Like, come
right.
on. You couldn't have had people stay around for 7 more days? and still allow them
Exactly.
to spend time with their families on Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving, you just let them
Right.
go. I don't.
Right.
Yeah, you just let
I
them
would
go.
like to know who Moscow Police Department and how they interviewed, because there's been some rumors that people were interviewed in squad cars in front of the house, not taken down to the station, which is what happened, photographed and interviewed thoroughly, but done there out of that's not how you do an interview. I'm not a cop, but that's not how you do an interview. You don't have two people within earshot of someone else. Okay, influence either directly or indirectly, and we won't know those details because everything is, and it keeps going back to the fact that this case is secret. It's been secret since day one. This is not how our country is supposed to operate. We fought it. We fought a war to avoid this and to have things done in public. I'm thankful
Mm,
that at least he agreed to continue to have cameras in the courtroom. But going back to what you said from the beginning, I think this thing is going to get dragged out, and it's going to get dragged out, and it's going to get
yeah.
dragged out, and that's not in any way, shape, or form good for any of us, the victims,
No.
their families, the memory of the victims, or the rest of us. We're all
Or
in
the
this
potential
together.
juror members that are going to hear all this shit for the next few years about all this wild shit that other people are going to be spinning, that's going to fill up
Right,
their headspace and, and them, the pressure that's going to be on these future juror members to try and forget about all of the stuff that you've heard and just focus when you're talking about that long period of time. It's going to be hard to do that, and that's got to be a lot of pressure on a potential juror member. Then you look at their mental stability and their health that could be affected from something like that, the pressure,
right.
you having somebody's lives in your hand, you put all that together, man, the longer this thing takes, the more the worse it's going to be for our justice system, I feel like, because this is one of them cases where it's going to change things for the good and it's going to change things for the bad, no matter what. Period.
Yeah,
No matter
no,
what.
I agree with you. I I agree with you. And look at what a small county this is. Laptop
Yeah.
County, I think, is 50,000 people, maybe. And
Mm.
Judge, when the trial was still on for October 2nd, he said, "Oh, I'm going to put them on a direct, unprecedented number of summonses for jury." He got one. He got one for his own case. That's how tight and compact. This isn't like Broward County where they had the trial of Cruz. 2 million people. That's the shooter at Park. Park was 2 million people in Broward County
Mm.
versus 50,000
Yeah.
that everyone's got to have ties to that college one way or another.
Yeah. And with it being that small, it's like the bar cheers. Everybody knows your fucking name, and you're gonna know this and this. The chatter between the students, that is what's gonna be really, really damning. Is and what's gonna be very interesting too is what was being, because they got. I hope. I hope they have the social media shit. They have to. You would think they
Right.
would have to. That's what's gonna be telling. What Okay, the 911 call is going to be one thing. What was being talked about between DM and BF, not only between themselves, but with other people, the friends that they called over? Why are you calling friends over before you even call 911? Why?
Right. Right.
Why?
Why didn't I mean, and that goes down to there's big, controversy, discrepancy as to what happened in X's room. Were both of that was the door locked, and then the supposed person who was one of the friends came in and had to force the door open.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? If that's true, why not run upstairs 20 seconds? She was the alpha female. I mean, just a dynamite young lady, so smart, getting ready to go to Texas, up and leave from Moscow, Idaho, to move to Texas
Mm-hmm.
to start her career, and God knows what contribution she would have made to society. She seems to me like an alpha female. 21-year-old is a much older than an 18 or an. Why don't they go upstairs and get Kaylee and then see? And that would have obviated the need to call friends. It's
Well,
just
especially if
so
it's
much.
as messy as what it is, you know?
Exactly. There's just so much, and then CJ, what about the lack of any details from any of these 18 and 19-year-old kids? They'll go on TikTok and they're going to talk about the cream in their Starbucks, or if a bird walked in. They're not going to be talking about what happened that day that the public can see. How is all
Mm-hmm.
of that not available? Why
Mm-hmm.
aren't they talking about this?
Right. Like Car's mom said, you know, why aren't other people that were, you know what I mean? Like they're the Sigma Chi party, you know? Uh, that's what, that's where a lot of my focus is, because I think that's where a lot of it started. And I think it
I
started
agree
there
with
and it
you.
ended at the
I
house.
agree.
You
I
know, why
agree
is
with
nobody from
you.
there talking? You know, like why?
Well, one possibility is that people that run the school were once, frat boys, and that they have access to attorneys, and they shut up really
Hmm.
quickly and they shut everything down. MPD don't look here.
Oh yeah,
We'll look. I mean, that's one theory.
they're their own hierarchy. They have their own. You know, they do their own thing and they handle shit inside for sure.
Exactly, and they're
And it's
all
run like a
secretive.
court, and you know, it's run like
Yep.
outside. It's what I say. I tell people it's like practicing politics before you go out in the political world. You're practicing it in a way in a fraternity, because it's all
That's true.
hierarchy, it's all titles, it's all. I mean, we did the deep dive on Sigma Chi, and the amount of titles they have alone for all the different individuals. It's like, how do you even frickin' remember all the titles? It's nuts.
I know. That's true.
Crazy.
And just to kind of throw in there, what exactly do fraternities and sororities have to do with the business of education, of higher learning for students, and preparing them for the future? Oh, I know they're going to come back and they're
It's
going to
the
say to do all
pappies
of this
that
and
donate.
everything.
It's the pappies
Yeah,
that donate. It's, you know, they're the contributors
uh,
to the school, so you know.
I guess, but it's all of the horror stories that we've heard of hazing and drinking to excess and all of this stuff. I don't
Yeah, there
know.
is a
But
lot of that
I
up
agree with
there,
you.
even at Washington State too. Yeah, especially at
It wasn't.
Washington State. Yeah, there's some parents
I
that.
agree with you that the answers to a lot of the questions lie between that short walk between 1122 and the Sigma Chi house. And I hope one day we'll be privy to what it is, but it just doesn't make sense, DJ. And I don't know. I can't believe that, we spoke last 4 months and we have little
Yeah,
information we did back then. It's almost a year. It's almost a year and we still don't have the information that we need to tell the public that this is the sole and the correct person who
yeah,
perpetrated these horrendous crimes last November. I'm not convinced of it. And as I said, my opinion now is that he is not guilty and he should have never been arrested, unfortunately.
I just hope after however long it takes, you know, I just hope it doesn't end up like when the 2007 acquittal of Ann Taylor, where the prosecution basically says, you know, we feel like the person that was acquitted was guilty, and we're just not going to try and find any other. We're not going to investigate any other leads because we feel the person that was acquitted was guilty. That's what I
I
hope
agree with you.
doesn't happen.
We've got precedent from OJ. Isn't that what LAPD did?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, well, okay, he's deemed not guilty, but the civil court found that he was guilty. Oh no, we're not going to open up. We think that we're not going to go look for anyone else because
Mm,
whatever. I think that that's exactly what's going to happen. And if he is
yeah.
acquitted, and it may take another couple years, for him sitting in that jail before that happens, they're going to come out and say, we think the jury
Mm,
got it wrong. We're not going to waste any more time. And society, you can deal with the people that are responsible running on the loose, and
and
they're by the grace of God, that you don't run into them.
and according to the prosecution, that would be them winning as well, because they're like, hey, we did what we could.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
everybody just goes off.
according, they'd still win.
And these poor children that should have been able to live their lives and graduate college and go out and start their careers and marry and have children, it's going to be their families who are going to bear that pain. So I just keep going back to Steve's quotes. He said this over and over again. If they have the right person, that's coming from him, and then he made that really odd statement that one time, CJ, I don't know if you remember, I think it was on Kaylee's birthday, where he sort of like changed a little bit, but even during that Dateline episode that came out, he said, my mind is open, that it might be someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, and even when that CBS one came out recently, and I saw when they had him and his wife sitting down and they were asked about BK's guilt, and you saw the difference in opinion, and that was very telling too, because Steve, to me, when I was watching what he was saying, to me, he was kind of like with what I'm saying when I'm watching these court hearings, and you'll see what I mean when we watch this next one. I put myself like I'm a family member, right? And that's why I kind of get the emotion that comes out when I'm watching those. And when I watched the thing on the CBS when he was talking, I was like, dude, that's exactly what I'm saying. You're sitting in that freaking courtroom. You're hearing this as a family member. You're expecting the prosecution to be like, oh, you want this defense? Here you go. Oh, you want this? Here you go. When you shouldn't even have to do that in the first place. And when he's sitting there watching the defense or the prosecution go, I'm sorry, how do we provide something we just simply don't have, Your Honor?
Yeah, exactly. And Steve, to me, impresses me. He impresses me as a person that's not going to tolerate fools. It's going to take a lot to pull the wool over his eyes. But then he's got his wife sitting next to him, who's going through this unimaginable. I'm going to give birth to this child. You've got unimaginable pain that sees Kaylee on Friday. She is vibrant, full of life, beautiful, intelligent. Then the next time you see her, she's ashes. I could see him trying to. And it's got to be a very powerful experience. Here, you're sitting in this courtroom. They bring in. Here comes the sheriff. They've got this guy. He's in body. Now he has a suit on, but he's under arrest. It's very powerful to not want to hope that it's him. To try to get some answers. But I'm afraid of what this means if they do have the wrong person and not the only person. That what they're going to have to go through, not only having their child pulled from their lives in a horrendous way. And Maddie, too. Maddie was like a child to them. But now that he's found not guilty, and who was it who did this, and Moscow's not going to look for them, how do you live your life? I don't know, CJ.
I don't know. I thought it was already going to be a possibility, when everything started coming out the way it did after the first of the year. But then when I read that acquittal and then I saw that Putney County prosecution was saying that, I was like, oh, hell no. This is going to be the same kind of thing when I'm sitting there watching an interview from a local Idaho lawyer right after the crime take place, when I'm questioning the coroner's freaking conflict of interest because she was representing a defendant that she performed the autopsy of his victim on. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, what? And we hear that a lawyer had a news interview from a local TV station, and they're talking to that lawyer from Idaho, and he's like, well, when you tell me what the conflict of interest is, let me know, because I don't see any. And I'm just like, is this what goes on up there? Is this how shit goes? Like, when you can see a conflict of interest, point it out, because I don't see any. What do you mean? What's the conflict of interest? Serious talk. And I'm like, you're a freaking lawyer, dude. What are you talking about?
I know.
That's why none of these Idaho lawyers don't talk to none of us no more. Because they get for real. Because they get in trouble. They get in trouble.
Yeah, they got to go. They got to live up there, and they, like you say, I think you put it very eloquently when you said, I mean, hey, they're in court, they're battling each other, but then, they're seeing each other at the church, they're seeing each other at the local, the corner club, they're seeing each other. They got to interact with each other up there, so it's got to be a lot of pressure on them too. But somebody's got to step up and do the right thing, even if it's the minority. And that's why I think that what you're doing, CJ, is so important.
I appreciate that.
So we got to look at this as not just this is possibly a 27-year-old man whose liberty was taken away from him. When the evidence isn't there, we've got 4 family members who are grieving for children that should have never been taken in the horrendous way. And then there's the rest of us that we may be going to a grocery store with the person who perpetrated this crime in the next lane over, and we don't know it.
Right.
And then the Fourth Amendment and the First Amendment that's taking a beating. So I hope that you'll continue.
Always.
I'm so thankful that you're out there, with doing the work that you do, and your mods are great. And I hope continued success in everything that you do.
I appreciate
you're independent, and it's hard. It's hard to be independent out there.
It is. You get a lot of hate being independent. You know what I mean? You get a lot of hate being independent.
And when you start to get to a period where they really come after you. So, but I know you're a strong guy, and you got a lot of good people around you, and I really look forward to seeing you grow. And then one day saying, "Hey, I knew CJ, and I spoke with him on the telephone. Now you got to get in line to do it."
Whatever. I appreciate you. You're so kind. I really do. I appreciate you.
You got a lot of people who's wanting your time, and you're covering other things. But I'm thankful for your time today, and I hope to connect with you again in another 4 months, wherever we are, and continue to talk to you on Twitter and on chat.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your support so much. Really, it could be 4 days, 4 weeks, 4 months, whatever you want it to be. I love this. I love the calls. Maybe we could even do it every Friday if you'd be available. It's totally up to you. But I love your support. I love your opinions, your thoughts, your theories in the chat, in the community. You're an amazing part of the community. You always have been. And I just appreciate you so much. And thank you for your time, because you didn't even have to do this, spend an hour and a half with us on the show. You didn't even have to do that. And so I appreciate you, because you didn't have to do it. I have to be here. You don't have to, and you did it anyway. So thank you.
Thanks, CJ. My regards to everybody, and I'll see you probably in chat or on another call down the line. Thank you.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Bye, CJ.
Take care. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, what a beautiful person.